This podcast is brought to you by Iron Temper Supplies. They're the group behind the first ever Iron Gate International Tattoo Convention going down in November in Sydney at the Hordern Pavilion, November 3rd, 4th and 5th. There's over 300 tattooers. It's invite only, so they've gone for quality and quantity, which is pretty rare. Most conventions, you apply, you pay the money, you tattoo there. And sometimes it leaves a lot to be desired, but not this one. Iron Gate is the new frontier on Australian conventions, and I can't be more excited to be working with them on this podcast. With all that being said, let's get into the episode. Welcome to the True Love Tattoo Podcast. I'm joined today by Mayonnaise, owner and operator of Capital Tattoo here in Melbourne. Mayo, thanks for joining me, man.
No worries.
So I'm super excited to have you on. We were meant to do this a while ago, and then it fell through, and now we're back and we're doing it. But I want to talk to you firstly about your career, because it's almost like you have three careers going simultaneously. Your like graffiti career, your like more fine art kind of career, and your tattooing career. I'm gonna assume that the graffiti came first.
No. Tattooing first.
Right.
Yeah.
When did you start tattooing?
The end of 2002.
2002.
Yeah.
11 years ago? No, fuck.
Years.
What, 20? Jesus Christ, I'm so bad at maths.
20 years ago.
Where did you start?
At Alien Tattoo in Footscray.
In Footscray.
Yeah.
Right.
It was right between the Club X and the pub, the Pokies.
Yeah, sick.
Right on Nicholson Street in the mall there.
How'd you get into it?
I got tattooed a lot when I was young, like 15.
15.
I always wanted to tattoo, but I grew up in New Zealand. It was difficult to get an apprenticeship there. So I moved to Australia hoping I could make something happen. And then I was painting houses, and one of the guys I was working with was like, I know this guy who's looking for an apprentice. So I went and bullshitted my way through that.
That's
One of
what.
them I could already tattoo.
So it was sort of like a street shop, sort of doing whatever.
Yeah,
you wanted
full
to do.
street shop in the mall in Footscray in the early 2000s.
What kind of stuff were you doing in the early
Cherry
2000s?
Creek, man.
Yeah.
Cherry Creek and
Like the dolphins jumping over,
Anything.
tribal, all that
Anything.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
the 8-ball with the skull in it.
Yeah.
Jack in the Box thing, the rose, the tiger cub,
Yes.
the mini rose. The perfect rose for the tit.
It is. the tit and the shoulder blade. I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
every middle-aged woman at some point thought about getting like that.
Or the
mini
tiger
rose.
cub ripping out. So many good ones.
Yeah.
The Harley ones, they were more difficult.
Yeah. So how long were you at that shop for?
So the shop was there for 2 years, and then it closed, and he had a second shop in Sunshine. So I went and worked in Sunshine for about another year and a half.
Right. So you started in 2002.
Yeah.
When did the other stuff come? When did the art and the...
So then I worked at a shop called Down to Earth,
Right.
which was in Keilor. And my friend at the time was like working at some sort of shop that had videos or something, or DVDs, and he's like, I reckon you'll like this DVD, and it was Style Wars, which is an old graffiti documentary.
Right.
And I just watched it, and I was like, that is fucking amazing. I loved it.
Yeah.
So I decided to go and be a graffiti writer.
So when you started doing that, were you doing the kind of stuff similar to what you do now, like the calligraphy kind of thing? No, it was just very much like
Yeah.
what you imagine graffiti to be, sort of bubble.
I was just
writing.
doing characters, like crappy characters with like big teeth and snot coming out their noses. And then, like I did a toilet that was winking at you, and, pulling his own chain and
Yeah.
silly stuff like that. Just out on the line,
Yep.
painting by myself or with one other guy that was like, he wanted to get into tattooing. So we were going to kind of help each other that way.
Yeah, cool. So how long into tattooing did you start doing that? Like a few years in?
So 3 or 4 years there, and then I worked at this little shop called Rawhide, and then I was at Voodoo for a while.
Yeah.
I think that I can't remember whether that was before or after. So probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And how, like,
But that was like, I wasn't active graffiti writer. I was treating it like a hobby.
yeah, just going
It
out
was
on weekends.
related to tattooing.
Yeah. Okay. And we're like, when people think of your work now, it's like your stylized sort of calligraphy script that you've created pretty much. Like, how would you describe it? Because like, to me, it's sort of, it looks like it has like Tibetan or Arabic sort of like influence in terms of like the shape of the alphabet that you do. Like, how would you categorize it?
It's a pattern.
A pattern? You look at
Yeah,
more
I think it's like a random pattern that's generated by the words that you give me.
right.
Yeah.
So how did you start doing that? Like, how do you basically create your own?
You don't just go, hey, I'm in the lab and I'm going to make this thing that everybody's going to like and it's going to work well, because
Yeah.
that would be too easy. You've got to so I started off doing all the Cherry Creek stuff, and there was a lot of tribal in those days. So I was making tribal stencils, and then I started to freehand the tribal.
Right.
And then as I got through my career and traveled and whatever, I wound up at Tattoo Magic, and it was a Japanese shop, and the guys there would freehand their backgrounds. So I started to learn to freehand fire and water and stuff like that. So I could do tribal, Borneo Māori, like all the different types of tribal. And then the water and the fire, and then script came after that. I started to freehand all my fancy script.
Yeah. Fancy script.
Yeah. Yeah. And then from there, they all kind of mixed together. And then with the graffiti coming into it as well, and tagging and all that sort of stuff, and the influences that I had there, they all kind of went into the recipe. And
And the days of the house painter.
yeah, I was a house
Using a
painter,
brush.
so I know how to paint neatly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and cut in nice and straight. But yeah, all those things added to make you have certain like intricacies, or makes you lean a certain way to certain things. And somebody might have taught me something about drawing fire that I can apply to a letter. So
Yeah. Right.
yeah.
That's cool. How like it almost seems, because on your Instagram you always have like the videos like of you drawing it on, and you're doing these things that's like concentric circles on body parts that aren't symmetrical body parts
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how do you even figure that out? Like, how are you? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
how because like you would think that you put like a bit of string and like press it down in the middle and
Yeah, but then it shortens with the curve of the body.
right.
So like I think of it like I'm projecting a circle. So you could project a circle into the corner of this room, and if you're standing right where the projector's coming from, that will make it a circle. It will eliminate the corner.
Right.
I learnt that through graffiti.
So you're just eyeballing it every time?
Yeah, but I eyeball it in a weird way where I use something to measure, but I don't wrap it.
Right.
So then I can measure and see the points and mark them out, and then I just sort of adjust it by hand so it looks right
Yeah.
from when you move around it, and then I measure off that circle for the rest of my circles.
I remember years ago seeing on Instagram that you painted like a whole skate park.
Yeah, I did that in 2 days.
How? Like how did
brush
you
on a
how
stick,
did you
like
get the job? Like
That was through Benalla Council put on a street art festival called Wall to Wall.
yeah.
And the guy organising that I'd worked with in the past, and he asked me if I wanted to paint the bowl at the skate park.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll paint the whole skate park or no skate park or nothing.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, go for it. But then council wasn't across it. So they were like, oh, we just want you to stick to the bowl. Like, it's way too big for you to do it, blah, blah, blah. And so they like gave me enough paint to like do that. And then I went to the shop and bought all this black and a spray gun and just sprayed their whole skate park black that night.
Yeah. You came back.
And then they came back in the morning and saw me starting in the middle of the fun box, right in the main point.
yeah.
And they were like, oh, there's no way you can do this. And I had to be at the Rites of Passage Festival on Friday, and that was Wednesday.
So they were just more doubting the fact that you could get it done in time. It wasn't that they were like pissed.
Oh, we
that
don't want you to do it. No, they were just like, oh, it's too much.
And you did it in 2 days.
Yeah, I just You just get a stick and you put the brush on the end of it so you don't have to bend down
Yeah.
and just start sweeping.
Fucking wild.
Sweeping the floor, yeah. And
That's not the wildest thing you've painted. You've painted a G-Wagon
yeah,
at one of your exhibitions.
yeah, that was fun.
Like what, like G-Wagon, I mean, you didn't paint the Indian motorcycle. You did a painting and it got wrapped around parts of an Indian motorcycle. What else, like what are some of the other weirder locations or objects you've painted?
Oh God, I don't know, man. Painting on like I painted a World War II pillbox.
What?
So a pillbox is like where they shoot the guns out of in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So it's on a vantage point on a hill, and there's like this little concrete slit, and they have the big guns that go out, and any ships that are coming into their harbour, they can shoot them from there. So like I climbed up this mountain and like buffed it. This pillbox was covered in crappy graffiti.
Yeah.
Like I climbed up late in the day so that by the time it was night, no one would be there, and I could buff it all black. I started buffing it while people were there, and they thought I was doing like a public service or whatever. And then when everyone left, I just like painted it all with the graffiti stuff,
Yeah, right.
with the calligraphy.
That's crazy.
It was a cool spot. But there's been so many spots, man.
Yeah.
Like I've hung off the side of buildings, painting upside down, people holding my legs so I don't fall off.
I always wonder that, like sometimes where I see like tags or whatever in just the most impossible places.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are these people putting like
There's a will, there's a way.
rope ladders or
Yeah,
like
people do that shit. But I never did that. I would just climb.
you just
We would
climb?
just like have roller poles and hang down,
That's
and
fun.
roll your name backwards, upside down. Like,
That's crazy. I've always like wondered whether people like now with drones and shit have like
yeah, katsu.
a screen. What do you call it?
Like a screen, what were you going to say?
Like if they have a monitor that or an iPad or something that they're looking at and have like a drone off in the distance so they can see what they're doing from afar, like because when you're so close to
Nah,
it, it's
you don't
hard.
need to do that. There's techniques that you can use to do that. I thought you were going to say a drone to do your painting, and there's a guy called Katsu who like attached a can to a drone and did some tags high up a building with his drone.
Really?
Yeah,
That's sick.
it was really cool.
Do you have like bucket list of things or spots you want to paint?
I want to paint an airplane.
Yeah,
Yeah, I reckon it'd be a cool shape
yeah,
for my stuff.
like a private jet kind of thing, or like
Man, I'm not going to be picky.
okay, yeah,
Me an
anything.
airplane, I'll paint it. Maybe like I would prefer a big one than a little one.
Yeah.
That's it. You know,
Okay.
like a little Cessna or something. It'd be fun, but like a big tube. You know, the big tube.
Yeah.
Even if it was not that big, it'd be all good.
So do you see it as like you've got your sort of art career in terms of like exhibiting and like putting on art shows and stuff? Then you've got like your career and then tattooing. Do you see it as like three separate careers or just one big one?
Nah, I don't. Because the graph career was like a point where I was like active and like seeking that, you
Yeah.
know. But I kind of got my fill, you know, like you have an axe to grind.
Yeah.
Like I always like to say, it's sharp and it's in the shed.
Right.
I can grab it whenever I need to now. It's all good. But with the painting, that's my painting and tattooing. Yeah, they're on different surfaces, but I'm lucky enough to have the same style that bridges across. So the painting is just like exploring things that you can't do with tattooing.
Right.
And I'm always trying to like get ahead of myself. Yeah.
How do you like, I guess when you're doing like the sort of calligraphy that you're doing, where do you want to take it in terms of like evolution? Or is it,
Well, I've already gone. I always say that like that shit was too soon.
right.
Yeah, because I like do stuff that I know like is a big advancement in what I'm doing, but it's really hard because people want what they've seen.
Yeah.
So to spring on them something new and say, hey, why don't we do this? Which is a risk as well because I'm not 100% sure
Yeah.
sometimes that it's going to come off the way I want. So it's hard to just like keep pushing your tattoo style onto people, and people do ask for certain things, but yeah, I just sort of try to get ahead on the painting and think of like a bunch of steps that I can add, a bunch of layers I can add to what I'm doing now, so that it keeps on advancing rather than stagnating. And
Yeah. Kind of like some of your paintings where you've done like the multiple layers where it sort of like adds
Yeah.
that depth to it.
Yeah, I call those ones letter machines.
Right.
I imagine those are like the cogs, like creating the letters that spit out a finished mandala. So that was how I deconstructed it and made it and tried to make it interesting, was like breaking it down and figuring out what it was before it was finished letters,
Right.
like glitching into something, you know?
How, like, so from doing Cherry Creek in Footscray to now,
Bless that.
to now doing like your sort of lettering all day, every day. How long did it take to almost try and like push that lettering style in tattooing? Was it hard to like
Didn't have to
initially?
push it. I got asked to do it.
Really?
And it's just naturally like more and more people were booking in for that than the other thing. So I wasn't pushing anything. That's the thing that people always think is like you created this thing and then you pushed it, and it's not true. You've got to like let it happen.
Right.
And if you're lucky, like everyone's got their own style, and if you're lucky, lots of people will like it.
Right.
If you're not lucky, not so many people are going to like it. And you keep developing it until people like it, I guess. But I consider myself lucky because what I did, people enjoy, you know? So,
I guess when it's like different enough as well, and there's no one else really doing it, you've got the game sewn up where it's like if
Yeah.
they want it, they can only really come to you to get it.
but it could be really crap. And there's a lot of people out there that are the only people doing something that's not that great, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what I mean by being lucky. Like your motor functions, whatever it is, the little things that happen in your life, you know, you're lucky enough to have a style that other people like and want to get a lot of, because then you can be busy with it.
So people are like
You
saying,
can't just push your style and say, hey,
yeah, true.
you know, this is my style. Everyone's going to get it, because they'll be like, I don't like it.
Because I feel like some people, when it comes to like their tattoos and social media, it's like they might work in a street shop where they're doing a bunch of different kind of things, you know, black and grey pocket watch and then a bit of traditional mandala, whatever. And they want to be doing mandalas. So they're like, oh, I'm only going to post these things
Yeah,
in order,
yeah.
like whatever you put out there, you're going to get more of in return.
Yeah.
And it's that vicious sort of
Yeah.
cycle where it just builds on that.
Yeah.
And so were people seeing like paintings that you'd done first and then being like, can you tattoo that?
Yeah, no, they were seeing tags.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was tagging a lot and painting graffiti a lot.
Yeah.
And people in the crew or people that knew that I did it were like, hey, I want to get this word tagged on me in your style.
Right. So it was sort of people that were on your inner circle to begin with that were.
That knew I was doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then, like now, it's you're pretty much like I've seen people on your Instagram. It's like whole limbs, whole backs, everything on like larger scale. Is it sort of like? Do you prefer doing the larger scale stuff to the like fingers and the smaller stuff, or it's all
It's
good?
funny, you know, like I like it. I like certain things like a one hit instant gratification, hand and fingers, great, you know. But I do want to push my work towards like full body suit, large scale stuff like that. I still don't feel like I'm doing that much large scale stuff.
Because doing like the large scale stuff, it sort of has more of that feel of like Japanese bodysuits and stuff where it's all about like the flow with the body.
It's always about the flow of the body.
Yeah. And it just, yeah, that payoff, that satisfaction of just completing something where it's like all
It's
just
just more
one.
to play with, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It just kind of feels like one big tattoo at the end of it as opposed to like a whole bunch of different ones.
yeah, and like you think about a composition from a hand to a wrist to a finger, and then you just times that by whatever it is to get a whole body,
Yeah.
you know, and try to play with that composition that you've been with the, I guess the map that I've been provided with, you know.
Right.
For me, I think there's already a flow there. I don't have to like pick it. I just see it there because it's all.
It's all in front of you.
Yeah, it's like there. Like when I paint a building, I don't go, oh, I'm going to paint this thing on this building. I go, what's around the building? Oh, those colors are in those bushes over there. This building like intersects like a third, like from the back, like you're looking at this building and there's a building in the background and it hits a third of the building there. And then you look down and I'm like, oh, look, there's actually like a bolt in the wall around that area. So I'll just tie some string around the bolt and start the thing there.
Right.
Yeah.
See,
Like if you've got a strange gap for me, I'll be like, oh, you've got like a flow here because you've got tattoos here and tattoos here.
yeah.
And then, you know, it's heavy black up there, so maybe we'll make it a bit lighter near the heavy black and a bit dark, you know, like it's already I just have to work out the problems rather than like try to create something.
So it kind of sounds like every appointment that you walk into, you're going in there and sort of like adapting to what's there, as opposed to like have a pre-drawing stencils, or because like you freehand everything pretty much, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you allocate time for that? Like when it comes to bookings, like how do you, like if you're not sure like what you're completely going to do, you'd have an idea because you would have had a consult or email correspondence or whatever. But how do you know, oh, cool, my next appointment's at this time. How can I get this done?
So I have a great admin assistant manager, Hannah. She knows exactly how long things take.
Really?
Yeah.
Just from being around it enough to just...
She's been doing my books for 10 years.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
So she knows, and we've got a really good system where she can give set prices for like knees, elbows, knuckles, She knows how long I need for them. Plus, I kind of stick to a rule where I do one a day. So it's like one whole tattoo a day or a whole day.
Yeah, because the drawing would be time consuming in itself.
Yeah, sometimes, surely. I think putting on a stencil can be time consuming.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
For me, it can be.
Absolutely.
Especially with some of the compositions that I'm trying to create. I don't think it could be stenciled.
Yeah.
I think there'll be an hour's drawing.
You have those.
Nice, the client can relax, and then I think I tattoo a bit quicker than most people do.
Right.
And I can cover a lot of ground pretty quick. So once we get going, it's sort of like 4 to 5 hours of tattooing, and then an hour of drawing, and that's my day.
When you're doing like those big concentric circle pieces, do you ever like the Sharpies rubbing off? Like
a little bit.
Happen much?
I draw it on, so I already know what I've done. So it's like
okay.
I could do it. I could probably do it just on the orange layer.
Yeah.
But I feel
so
like
for the people listening, you've got multiple like Sharpies or textures.
Yeah.
So it's like you start with a lighter one, like yellow or something, and then you sort of refine it with like darker colors until
as you go through the gradients. Yeah.
Right, and then you basically, the darkest color is your stencil, so to speak. Yeah. So you could do it off the semi-rough version, yeah?
Yeah, and like as long as you've got the map, like my letters are I've got formulas and stuff, but it's just better to draw the couple of layers just so you catch yourself if you make a spelling mistake.
You mean you have formulas?
Oh, there's like certain things that happen with certain letters, and that's part of like a formula, I guess.
Right.
How to like create a rhythm.
Right. So I have done it like a bunch of fancy script. And when it's like multiple lines of script, like a paragraph or a Bible verse or something like that, and you've got like a Y that like comes down into the line below it and a H that goes up into the line above it, I've always found like that difficult because it's like you're figuring out composition within text, and it's like you can only space words a certain way, whatever, without it sort of like running into each other. So is that kind of what you mean? Where it's like, when it comes to like the formula.
Yeah, well, fonts are all like designed to fit into each other, right?
Yeah.
So that's the same kind of thing as like I'm trying to fill the gaps. I don't want to leave any awkward spaces or lose balance. So I created kicks and flows on letters to eliminate those spaces.
Right. Yeah. Sick.
And then they create a rhythm. So if there's a lot of like, say a P has a long part on it, every time a P occurs, it creates a rhythm. And if it was, say, they wanted the word apple tattooed over and over again, they get these 2 lines reoccurring over and over again in the circle. So that creates like a geometric rhythm.
Yeah, and it becomes a pattern like you said before.
Yeah, or a poem can create like a different look as well because it has like words that sound the same. So there's going to be the same kind of letters in there. And then those letters reoccur in a poetic rhythm, and that creates like a different aesthetic to the tattoo as well.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Do you tattoo many poems? Is that like...
Yeah, I have a book from 2017 with everything I've written on people in Australia since 2017, and there's all sorts of stuff in there.
Right. What would you say is most common? Are people coming in and getting like names or mantras or whatever, or it's pretty diverse?
It's just whatever they want. Like as long as they tell me what they want.
Yeah.
I try not to get into it too much with them. They just get written what they want, and that's cool.
Yeah, sick. Yeah. So as I mentioned at the start of the episode, you're the owner of Capital Tattoo.
Yep.
How long have you had Capital for?
That's a good question. I had it about maybe 8 months before the pandemic started, so whenever that was.
Yep.
So that's a while.
2020.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah. And
Maybe 2019, I think.
did I see that the name for Capital came from Freddie Corbin?
Yeah.
How did that, like, were you just like, oh, you name my shop?
Nah. Freddie hit me up to tattoo his cheek. He's like, hey, dude, you want to come up to Oakland and tattoo my cheek? And I was like, fuck, Freddie wants me to tattoo his butt cheek. I was like, how do I ask him what that is? And said, oh, can you send me a photo of the area? It was risky. And he sent me a photo of his face, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll travel up to Oakland to tattoo Freddie's face.
People listening that might not know who Freddie Corbin is.
Yeah.
Can you just give them a rundown
The
on?
godfather of religious black and grey, like apprenticed under Ed Hardy in San Francisco. So he's the OG.
Yeah, there's
Got a shop in Oakland called Temple Tattoo, which is legendary.
and 13.
And Temple 13, yeah.
Yeah, and there's like documentaries and stuff featuring him and stuff like that.
His life. He's an amazing dude. Mr. Nice Guy.
Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, he's just the
He's
nicest
the coolest
dude.
dude. So you've been asked by like one of your heroes to tattoo his face.
Yeah. Like, I loved his work, but I wasn't in that vein of tattooing. So I know who Freddie is,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, it was a little bit intimidating going there, but I didn't find it like,
You painted
you
part
got
of
to
his shop.
get shit done.
You painted part of his shop as well.
Yep. He wanted one of his pillars done. It was a really quick trip.
Yeah.
It was really cool because Jason McAfee was still there and Danson was there at the time, and we all partied together, and like I got my head tattooed all hungover by Freddie the next day, and I done a tattoo on his face, and afterwards I showed them the picture. Oh, actually Freddie came, I think we went for dinner, and all the guys were like, oh, thank God, dude, we thought you were going to do like a giant letter on his face. I was like, nah, man. And then after that, we all got along really well.
So how did it go from tattooing his face to him coming up with the name Capital?
So we hit it off. Like, me and Freddie were the same kind of values on tattooing, and I think he said to me, he goes, oh, you've given, restored a bit of faith in tattooing, meeting you, because it's a bit of a risk having a new person come out there and tattoo your face and you've never met him or whatever.
for
And so
sure.
we got along really well. We partied, all the rest of it. And I was looking for a name for a shop, and I didn't really want to have some epic like name. I wanted something that was like working class, like a power company or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and he gave me 3 choices. I just hit him up. I was like, Freddie, I'm struggling for a name, man. Would you name my shop? And he gave me 3 choices, and one of them was Capital.
What were the other two?
I can't tell you because someone might steal it.
Oh, okay.
And they're his. But I'll tell you after.
Okay, sick.
Yeah.
So at Capital, there's you. There is your partner,
Yep.
Vulgar
Vulgar
Artist,
Artist, yep,
on
Inez.
Instagram. Inez, yeah. You've got Ganji, Bang Ganji.
Nganji, yep. Japanese killer.
Who else do you have?
We call him the final boss.
The final boss?
Yeah. And then there's Kit Bennett, is my new apprentice.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
cool. What kind of stuff is Kit doing?
So Kit does illustrative, his own style. He's a graffiti writer,
Right.
a muralist and cartoon, not cartoonist, but illustrator.
Yeah.
And he's super talented, and he does like cool illustrative stuff, like really wacky. Like, he did this inside of the mouth perspective, taking like if you were the tonsil looking out.
Yeah.
He's taking a pill. Like, he just draws this crazy shit. And it's been really easy to teach him how to use machines and do his own stuff.
Yeah.
He's he's killing it.
I see like you and Ganji all the time, like collaborating, like either with each other or with other brands or whatever. Like, what do you think is like the key to hitting someone up for a collaboration?
I never hit people up.
You're the one getting hit up for the
Yeah.
collaboration?
Yeah.
It's like,
Authenticity is key
right,
for them.
right.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've done collaborations in the past, and I've found like in the past doing a collaboration with someone else that their view of the end product and your view of the end product can like differ. And then I've had like collaborations in the past where it's sort of like veered a little bit off course, and where it's sort of like it's benefiting them and not benefiting me in a way. It's like, I think in that sort of like setting, it can be hard to like put your foot down because you're like, fuck, I don't want to like not have anything at all. I don't want to like squander this opportunity. How like, what's the best way to go about it? Where it's like,
It's the way you negotiate with people. It's the way you deal with people
right,
in a business setting.
right,
Because obviously you're a tattooist, you can do it in the tattoo shop, but some people struggle to do that in the boardroom or whatever. So it's how you present yourself in the boardroom, and it's how you raise your points, and how you interact with them, and let them know how you're feeling, and not, like, you got to be staunch. Like this guy asking me with my hat, I'm like, no, I don't want to change my hat, or like, so you got to keep to your guns a little bit, but do it in a way that's not immature. You've got to be able to negotiate. Like if you're working with Nike, they're not going to bugger around with someone cracking the shits because they want to change, they want to change something about your design. You have to say, yeah, okay, let's like work with you like you would with your client or anyone else, and not look at it in a negative, like they're trying to attack your artwork.
yeah,
They're trying to do a job with you, and they're trying to get to something that they can foresee from you that is good. So you've got to kind of trust that brand. You don't align yourself with someone that you're like, oh, I don't really like their stuff anyway.
yeah,
Because then you're not really going to come up with a product that you may like in the end.
yeah. That's true. Is it sort of like you make sure you have everything in writing as well? Like,
It's really important, but I think like they like to do that more than I like to do that.
yeah, okay,
Like I'll make sure I'm protected, but usually it's their job to come up with the contract. I'll go through and like negotiate pieces out of that contract if I don't like them,
yeah,
which is something people don't know they can do.
yeah,
You cross it out and initial it, and they have to have their people rewrite it once you come to your negotiation.
Dude, there's been times where I've like come up with an idea for a collaboration, and I've reached out to whatever like company it is, and I'm like, hey, I've got this idea, and then we have a meeting and we sit there and we discuss it, and they're like, yeah, oh, that's epic, yeah, absolutely, no worries. And on like one occasion, I just got ghosted completely, and then they just went and did it. Like they just took the idea that I had and just did it. So I'm like, fuck, like,
They don't give a shit about artists, man.
Yeah.
Most people don't. So if you're approaching somebody, then they're like, I got this guy.
yeah,
If they're approaching me, then I'm in a different boat, like, because they want to do something with you for a reason.
right,
And I think it's the authenticity and whatever. You're doing something that can further their brand, because brands are just people with money that created something that they're trying to make cool. You know what I mean? So they need to pay people for the authenticity for their brand. So when they realize that you have that and something like that, then you can use that to your advantage, and make sure that you stick to your authenticity with them, even if they're trying to pay you a good amount of money or whatever. You have to like be, just ask the right questions. Don't be afraid to say, hey, what about this? And I don't like that. And, just because they're a brand.
true.
Yeah.
Do you see like tattooers as being a brand in a way,
I guess so. It depends who you are. Like,
in terms
it
of like how you represent and portray
'cause
yourself?
there's dudes who are like, I don't want to be that, and I want to stay local, and they fucking murder it. Like, there's like Matt Mooney.
Yeah,
Like, I wouldn't say Matt Mooney has created a brand.
yeah,
He fucking slays it. You know what I mean? So it just depends on who you are and what you're doing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, guess what you're trying to achieve,
How you want people to see what you do.
right? Would you say mayonnaise has become a brand in a way?
Yeah.
Because you sell like beach towels, all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
where
yeah.
it's almost like, yeah, it's become a brand in a way in terms of like the sort of merch and stuff that you do.
I generally try to do. So if I have a cancellation, I'll go and try and get something merch related done or painting related done, so the day's not wasted.
Yeah,
That was a rule that I made for myself a long time ago.
I think that's good.
If I had a cancellation, I go straight to my studio, even though it pisses the shop off because you're not hanging around waiting to do a walk-in.
Yeah,
Like, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna go.
be productive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always kind of looked at it that way too, where it's like you say that you're going to work these days or whatever between this hour and this hour. It's like if you're not tattooing there's plenty of other things you can be doing
Yeah.
as well, like to be productive and to benefit you, and that then
To make
leads to
up.
more work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even if it's like, okay, I had a cancellation, I'm going to go and stretch up 3 canvases that won't get done for 6 months, but at least I've stretched those 3 pieces up and I've got $15,000 once I've sold them all. You know, like I kind of think about like that. Or let's go start doing a t-shirt design. So the next time I have a minute, I can tune it up and then we can send it out and get it printed.
Where did you learn to like stretch canvases and stuff? Like just
At
YouTube?
my art studio.
Like just
James Recker showed me how to do it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's not hard.
It's not hard. I think I tried doing it once in high school. It was the hardest thing ever.
Nah. I mean, if someone's showing you how to do it and like, yeah, you're a bit older, work it out.
I was just going rogue with a staple gun, trying not to get my hand.
Yeah, no, it's just a little process, and it's definitely handy not having to wait 2 weeks for a canvas to be stretched up for you.
How much of your how much of your week do you dedicate to doing stuff in your art studio as opposed to the tattooing studio?
I don't have a set dedication rate.
But would you say like you tattoo like all day, 5 days a week, and then at night you're going and painting stuff?
Sometimes if I've got bookings, like if I'm busy with work and I have to do a painting, like sometimes I live in my studio at the moment, so I can just wake up and do, like if you wake up and do 20, 30, 40 minutes of painting each morning, like say have some breakfast and you got 40 minutes before you go to work and you just like do a little bit.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the end of the week, you're like, shit, Sunday I'm almost done. I can just finish this painting.
Yeah, okay.
It's the little bits and pieces that like, it's the 10% extra that other people don't do that you do.
Yeah.
That helps you separate yourself from the rest, you know?
Go, I could sit here and scroll TikTok, or I could go and like chip away at this painting for a bit.
Yeah, just have like 20 minutes in the morning. You're like, you got your brush on the water, just dry your brush and put it in the color and like do a little bit. It doesn't have to be that you spent your whole day finishing a painting.
Yeah, okay.
You just chip away at it and get them done.
I find it hard to not finish something once I've started it.
It's good. That's a good thing. A lot of people start things and then they're not happy with the way they're going in that middle stage and they never finish them. And they don't realize that when it all finishes and it comes together, you've probably done something pretty good.
I mean in like one sitting. Like I struggle to like chip away at something over the course of a week.
Yeah.
It's like if I sit down, it's like, cool, I'm not going to bed until this is done. And then I feel like sometimes like it's not a good mentality to have, because sometimes you're just like, I just got to get this done. And then you're sort of like, I don't know, if I spent more time on it, maybe it could have been better or whatever. But
Yeah, it just depends what you're doing. Because if like say if you're doing portraiture, I'm sure that because art is never finished; it's only abandoned, right?
Right.
So it's like it just depends when you like my paintings are never finished. I say they're always just resolved to the point where nothing's pissing me off anymore.
Right.
Yeah, so they get what they get, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, if you can give them more time, you should,
Right.
you know, and if you can slow yourself down and not rush and just be like, I can finish this tomorrow, then
Yeah.
that's fine, or I've got another week for this, or this doesn't have to be finished anytime soon.
Yeah.
And it's kind of good to like sit back. I like to look at photos of things when they're half finished. I'll lie in bed and like look at my photo and find all the reasons that I'm not happy with it, and then I'll go and resolve them maybe in that 20 minutes in the morning, you know.
I feel like there's no worse feeling than knowing that you've overdone something, where you're
We're
like,
cooking it.
yeah,
Restraint is an art form in itself. I got told that once.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like you might spend a week on it or whatever, and then you're like, oh, maybe I'll just put a little bit here, and then you're like, oh, fucked it.
Created yourself like another 3 days work.
Yeah.
It happens to me a lot.
So a while ago, you did like a collaboration with Bishop, and it was for like a tattoo machine, like a wireless tattoo machine wand
That was a promotion. Just
promotion.
A promotion for them, yeah.
promotion. So with that, in the video, you were talking about sort of like embracing advancements in technology, really, where I think you explained it as, why would I sail a ship somewhere when I can just get a flight? Referring to like, why would I use old like technology when I have this available to me?
Yeah.
So like, at what point do you think abandoning traditions in the name of innovation, like Because I feel like tattooers are so set in their ways where it's like, but this is how I've always done it. And this is how the person that taught me always did it and all that sort of stuff. And they get really set in their ways. Where do you find that line for embracing the new?
Well, I never wanted to be one of those guys that told me that I couldn't do it.
Right.
You know, like when I started, I remember when I first started, I had to do a band around someone's arm. So I was using a ruler to draw my stencil. My boss was like, "Why are you using a ruler, mate? You got to do it freehand." And I'm like, "Well, I just thought I'd start off with a good start."
Yeah, I just wanted to be straight.
Yeah. So like that was like the first thing. And then there's like the gatekeepers that are like, you know, loyal to the coil or like whatever. And I don't know. I never wanted to be a naysayer to somebody and say, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing it like this." So
Yeah.
always kind of tried to move with the times, I guess. I don't want to get left behind. And young people were working out cool stuff and doing tattoos really fast and everything and
Yeah.
smooth, and they look good. And I was like, man, why wouldn't I try this as well? Like,
Yeah.
even so many people that I've worked with, like Tintin, he's an old school fucking dude. And if you know who Tintin is, he's like
In France.
proper, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like said to me, he's like, "These motherfuckers at my shop, man." He goes, "You know, they're beating me now and their work looks good and they're using these fucking pen machines."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, man, they're good." And he's like, "Fuck." And then Bishop and the guys actually gave Tintin a pen machine. It was like a huge scalp for them. They were super stoked. You know, Freddie Corbin uses one.
Yeah.
Grime uses one. A lot of really, really good tattooers are using them.
Yeah. And I feel like when everyone's like, oh, that's not especially because I do traditional tattoos, I feel like people that do traditional tattoos are really set in their ways.
Yeah.
Because they want to continue the tradition of like the old designs and using coil machines and all that sort of stuff.
Which is awesome. I love it.
It's cool. But I feel like,
As long as you let other people do what they want to do.
yeah, but people resisted iPads for so long in traditional tattooing because they're like, no, if you're not doing pen on paper, then it's shit or it's a shortcut or you're cheating or whatever it is. And
Whatever
now,
makes you feel good, bro.
no, everyone does it. But they're kind of like, I think they think of, you know, the tattooers from 50, 100 years ago and they're like, oh, but they didn't use it. It's like, yeah, but if they had iPads available to them, they probably would have used it, you know, like.
Going around on a horse and cart, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So
It's a strange thing. And look, all you can do is just be like, I want to move with, look, there's not a lot of exciting advancements in tattooing.
yeah.
You know, 1902 was like, what was his name? Percy someone? Wasn't
Percy
Percy?
Waters.
No, I don't think it was Percy Waters. It was someone else. But early 1900s is when the machine came around.
Oh, Sam O'Reilly.
O'Reilly, yeah. So it was Edison and then O'Reilly.
Yeah.
And the O'Reilly machine came and that was it. 2 electromagnets and an armature bar driving a needle up and down. And that's 100 and something years ago.
Yeah.
So then rotary machines came up in like the 60s and 70s, I'm thinking. And then that was like a change, but I guess it wasn't resolved and proved that it's like a thing. It was just a change in machine. So it would have been exciting for those guys in those days. But then, you know, machines got built really well. Everyone was like sick machine builders, and you get a Mike Pike teacup liner and you get a sober shader and all this. But, you know, there's been no real jumps in technology and tattooing until the pen machine.
True.
You know, what else is there been to excite you? Is a pen machine that doesn't have a clip cord,
Yeah.
and then the cartridge needle. Those are the 2 jumps in technology and tattooing that we've had in 100 years.
Yeah.
Everything else is the same. Yeah, we got different inks, but that's not that exciting.
Yeah.
We've
the
got pre-made
stencils.
needles. That's cool, but it's still just needles. It's still needles, you know. But this is something new and different, and a jump in technology in our industry that's like makes life easier and is better at applying some tattoos.
Yeah.
Not all, but some.
I feel like when the pens came out, they were so chunky and so big and massive. And it's like, that looks like the most cumbersome thing ever. And now they get like, every time one's released, they're smaller and smaller and smaller. And the batteries last longer and longer and longer.
Yeah,
Like,
vape technology. So as vape technology got better and the batteries got smaller, then the tattoo industry could adapt those batteries to their machines. Because we're not going to go around and develop batteries ourselves.
You think
an
like all the advancements in the tattoo pens came from vapes, like the
Yeah,
innovation
from the
of
vape
them?
battery. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, fucking oath.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I've never.
I
even
had a
thought
bit
of
of,
that.
I had a little bit to do with helping develop the wand,
Right.
and not the battery, but just the wand machine, and just through like chatting to the guys at Bishop and stuff, and whatever. I'm pretty sure, like I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure the batteries, as the vape batteries got better and smaller, so could the tattoo machine ones.
Right.
Yeah.
How did that work? So were they like,
They would send me prototypes,
and you'd use them, suss it, and then
break it. So you use it till it broke, and then you send it back. You tell them what you don't like about it, and then they would like figure out, oh, that's a weak point in the engine from when he dropped it, or like whatever. I reckon I've had 50 machines.
really
Yeah,
of the ones
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and like 50 until it came out with the one
No,
that they have
I probably
now.
had 6 or 8 generations, and then the rest of them have just been like gifted to me, or I drop them, or they'd be out of tune, and I'd be like, send it back for a tune, and they just send me a new one, or I'm at a convention and I haven't got machines because I couldn't take them with me to that country, so they give you a machine or whatever. Bishop's a fantastic sponsor,
Yeah.
amazing sponsor.
How many countries have you tattooed in? Because you've tattooed in a lot of countries. A lot of it. Well, you've tattooed in America a bunch,
Yeah,
and then all over Europe.
all over Europe, and then New Zealand, Australia, Thailand. I work in Thailand with the guys at Loco Mosquito, which is really cool. I don't know, man.
You tattooed in Japan
Yep,
at Three Tides.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. That was a good one. That was where I met Ganji.
Yeah.
Ichibei used to work at a friend's shop, and he needed a place to stay in Australia. So Ichibei lived with me for 3 months, and then I bumped into him in the laneways of Harajuku. He's like, Mayo. I'm like, what's up? And he's like, what are you doing? Why didn't you tell me you were here? And I was like, fuck, I forgot you were kind of here. I just thought you were everywhere.
Yeah.
And then he's like, come in, and I met the guys there, and they offered me a guest spot there, so I took it.
I went to Japan in 2018 and we got tattooed there. I got tattooed by Horihiro. I got like a Tabori tattooed on my thigh.
right up the top.
Yeah. And then my mate got tattooed by Ganji and he got just like one of his little monsters on his foot. And then we got back to Australia and like I'm pretty sure it was soon after that Ganji moved to Australia. He's like, so I went to Japan and got tattooed by the guy that I can now get tattooed by.
At least he can get a touch up, I guess.
And so how did Ganji come to work at Capital?
So Ganji would come and guest spot where I was working
Right?
when he was coming to Australia. And his wife was pregnant, and the pandemic was hitting, and they were in Mexico. He's traveling the world with like 3 kids and a pregnant wife. It's like crazy, man.
His wife's Australian too, isn't she?
His wife's Australian, from Brisbane, Kylie, and she had to come back to Australia to have her kid.
Right.
And I was like, come to Melbourne.
Yeah.
Go to Brisbane. And then Ganji landed, and 2 weeks later we went into lockdown.
Oh shit.
So unlucky, man.
That would have been hard setting up a shop and then going straight into lockdown too.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'd already set it up and had people working there and blah blah blah, and I was kind of resigned to having a shop. Like it was, but it was. Yeah, it wasn't easy running an operative tattoo studio for
Yeah.
time. You know.
Especially first time owning a shop as well.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it's
was-
rough. Running a shop's rough, man.
Yeah. Stubbs at Corpus has just like gone away for like 3 weeks. And then you realize all the stuff that he does where you don't like see him do it. And then it's like just up to everyone in the shop to just sort of like do it while he's away. And you're like, oh my God, there's so many fucking things. And then he's tattooing on top of that as well. Stressful. I don't reckon I could ever own a shop. I'm not nearly responsible enough.
Yeah, that's why I have a little one.
Yeah, okay.
I have a little. I could fit 7 people in it. It would be packed, and I had it at 7 at one point. But I think 4 is good.
Yeah.
I got a spot for the guest, and it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's in Collingwood. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Down like what's
Perry Street. So
Perry
it's
Street.
just off Smith Street, half a
Yeah.
block back.
How did you land on Collingwood for a spot for a shop?
I had an art studio in that building. I've had an art studio in that building for 10 years. And the print shop that was there at the time moved out, and the space became available, and I was working at another shop. I'd been there for a couple of years, and it was time to move on. So I just decided it was time to, I think it was like 18 years or something I've been tattooing for, and
Wow.
16 or 17 years. And it's just like, it's time to.
Was it always sort of like an ambition of yours to own a place? It was just sort of circumstance. You just
Yeah, I was just sick of working with people that piss me off. I was just like, I'm over it, man. Like, there's so many people in the world that just have no idea what's going on. And I just got sick of having to put up with things that I felt were wrong,
Yeah.
you know?
Just one of those sort of like, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself kind of thing.
Yeah, or just like, you know, like things people are saying to other people.
Right.
You know, it's like if I hear something that makes me feel uncomfortable and someone's saying that, if it's my shop, I'm not going to let that happen, you know? So
Right. So how do you find like being the boss of a shop?
I'm not.
You're
I'm
not?
the boss. Like, we all just work together.
Yeah.
Like, I hate it when anyone calls me the boss.
Right.
And I hate, like, saying you're the owner of something.
Right.
You know, I don't even like saying I own my dog. You know, like, I don't like that either. So I just try to make sure that I provide what I would expect for me as a shop. I tried to make an awesome shop for me, and then whatever I thought was the best, I gave to everybody else. And then I hope that they would just really enjoy working in the shop. And I sort of got people there that, like me and Ganji, work off each other.
Yeah.
So we do different stuff, but like we do things that are quite similar. And I was happy working with just my partner and Ganji, and then Kit came and asked me for some help, and his art is really, really good, and I knew that I could help him a lot. Like I could get him firing pretty quick, so he's just been added to the team. He's a bonus. He's a delightful dude and super talented.
So with the exhibitions that you've put on in the past, did they sort of come about through tattooing as well, in terms of like making connections and putting on shows?
No, that was through painting.
Through painting?
Yeah, like there was a strange point there where it was like, should I separate tattooing from painting? Because it was like certain people were like alluding to the fact that it was cheapening my artwork having it attached to tattooing.
Right. It's like the value of however much you sell a painting for.
You as an artist, you as an artist, you're a tattooist.
Oh, like the stigma of tattooing attached to that. I feel like there's so many tattooers that have like art careers
Now,
separately now. Yeah, too.
yeah.
That's so
And
strange.
at the time when I was first doing it, it was like there was like a question mark above it.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think,
Like galleries might not want to work with tattooists, you know?
true, the crowds that they attract? Bunch of dudes with big glasses and black t-shirts that are too tight for them, drinking goon out of a box.
Yeah.
And just sort of, yeah. That's strange. So obviously it's been received well because you've done it a bunch. And like you had a show in the Rialto building here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
The one where you painted the G-Wagon for it,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
Mercedes.
yeah.
So what was that like? Like the turnout? Like, did you have a bunch of the sort of wanky art people from
I
the
love those dudes. They buy artwork. Those are the best guys.
Right.
Yeah,
But
you want those guys. I had what's his name? Tony from the NGV. Oh, I shouldn't be forgetting this guy's name. Is it Tony Abbott? No, it's
I
not.
don't think it's Tony
Not
Abbott.
Tony Abbott. But the director of the NGV came and checked out my exhibition that time,
Really?
which was really cool. And we talked about the paintings and talked real art talk, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
I like that stuff.
And like we were saying before, how you sort of have like the mailing list or whatever, the preview or whatever. So there's like a bunch of art collectors that are signed up early, where they get sort of like first access to the exhibition in a way, and they get first dibs almost on the paintings.
Yeah.
So with those people, they're very much from the art collecting world, and
Yes, and tattooing as well.
Okay.
There's people that are tattoo enthusiasts that collect my work as well. So there's definitely a crossover.
Cool.
Yeah.
Have any of the people from the art world come and gotten a tattoo off you
Yeah.
since? Yeah? That's crazy. It's crazy that it's gone so much from like, oh, a
This lady,
tattooer
and
in the art
She
space.
goes and stands in front of my paintings at exhibitions with her tattoo, and she hashtags double mayo. She's awesome.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, Mayo, thank you so much for
No
coming and
worries.
doing the podcast with me, man.
Of course, man.
Truly appreciate it. Go get tattooed by everyone at Capital Tattoo.
Especially my lovely lady, Vulgaratus, who didn't get too much of a mention, but she's been apprenticing for a little bit, and now she's starting to really kill her fine line work. And her, Ganji, Kit Bennett, those two guys, and Vulgaratus and Kit Bennett, those two, keep an eye on them because they're killing it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you, man.
Appreciate it. This podcast is recorded with the team at Superdolls Studios here in Melbourne. For all your video and audio podcast needs and much, much more, visit superdollstudios.com.